The last thing Kaelira remembered was the chaos of the battlefield. The metallic clang of alien blades, the acrid smoke from plasma rifles, the endless roar of dying soldiers. She had fought until her arms felt like lead, until her legs trembled beneath the weight of her own armor. The enemy had pressed her squad into a corner, overwhelming them with sheer numbers. She had been their captain, their shield, their pride, and now she was the last one standing. A blade had pierced her side, a deep, cruel wound meant to finish her, and Kaelira knew she was seconds from death. She remembered falling to her knees, fingers slippery with her own blood, and staring up at the storm-filled sky. So this is where it ends, she had thought as the world blurred around her. Asterisk, no honor. No one to remember me. Asterisk. She had closed her eyes, ready to accept the nothingness. But when she opened them again, she was staring at a wooden ceiling she did not recognize. There was no smoke, no screams, no battlefield. Instead, there was the quiet crackle of a fire somewhere nearby, and warmth. Real, living warmth against her cold, shivering body. Her vision cleared slowly, adjusting to the dim light of a small room. She was lying on something soft. A bed. Not a military cot. Not a stretcher. A bed. Her armor was gone. Her weapons gone. She was dressed in clean bandages and a simple blanket pulled over her form, and sitting beside her, in a worn wooden chair, was a human man. At first, Kaelira thought she was hallucinating. The man had dark, slightly messy hair, a sharp jawline softened by exhaustion, and a simple shirt with sleeves rolled up to his elbows. His hands, broad, scarred, were resting on his knees, his head tilted slightly as if he'd been watching her breathe. When he noticed her stir, his eyes met hers. "You're awake," he said softly, his voice low and steady. "Don't move too much. You're still healing." Kaelira's mind spun. She didn't recognize him, didn't recognize his place. Her warrior instinct screamed at her to get up, fight, demand answers. But when she tried to sit up, pain flared through her side so sharply she gasped. The man was at her side instantly, one hand lightly on her shoulder. "Hey, easy. That wound was bad. Another hour out there, and you wouldn't have made it." Kaelira froze. "Another hour out there? You saved me," she rasped, her voice dry and foreign in her throat. He nodded once. "Found you near the riverbank outside the valley. Looked like you'd been through hell. I wasn't sure you were even alive at first." Kaelira stared at him, confusion tightening her chest. "Why?" The man blinked. "Why what? Why save me?" Her voice cracked. "I'm not human. You can see that." She knew what she looked like to humans. Taller, stronger, with faint silver markings running along her skin. Signs of her people, the Lyrathi. Many humans feared them. Others hated them outright because of the wars. But the man didn't look afraid. "Because you were dying," he said simply, as if that explained everything. And because no one deserves to be left alone like that. Kaelira didn't know what to say to that. His name was Elias. Over the next few days, Kaelira learned bits and pieces about him. He lived alone in this small cabin at the edge of human territory, far from the cities. He'd served as a medic once, years ago, before the wars between humans and Lyrathi had grown so bitter. Now he kept to himself, tending to the forest, hunting when he needed food, trading with travelers who passed through, and now, apparently, saving half-dead warriors from battlefields. Kaelira healed slowly under his care. The gash along her ribs had been deep, but Elias was skilled. He cleaned the wound every day, changed the bandages with gentle precision, and made sure she drank water even when she scowled at the taste of the bitter herbal teas he brewed. She didn't talk much. She wasn't used to this. Safety. Quiet. He didn't push her. Sometimes, in the evenings when the fire crackled and the cabin felt warmer than she ever remembered feeling, she would catch him glancing at her like he wanted to ask something. But he never did. One night, though, Kaelira finally broke the silence. "Why live out here alone?" she asked, her voice rough from disuse. Elias looked up from where he was tending the fire. He thought for a moment before answering. "War takes a lot from people," he said finally. "Some things you can't ever get back. Out here it's quieter, easier to breathe." Kaelira studied him. There was a heaviness in his eyes, a weight she recognized. He had lost something too. She didn't ask what. As the days passed, Kaelira grew stronger. She could walk now, though Elias still scolded her when she pushed herself too hard. The first time she stepped outside the cabin, the sunlight made her pause. The forest stretched endlessly around them, green and alive, the air fresh with pine and earth. It was so different from the smoke-choked battlefields she was used to. For the first time in years, she felt alive. Elias came to stand beside her, arms crossed loosely. "Not bad, right?" Kaelira's gaze swept the horizon. "It's beautiful," she admitted quietly. He smiled faintly. "Figured you could use a little beauty after everything." She didn't know how to respond to that. It was during one of those quiet evenings, when the fire was warm and the world outside was nothing but wind and rustling leaves, that Kaelira realized something had changed. Elias was sitting across from her, reading a battered book. The firelight softened the edges of his face, catching in his hair, and Kaelira's chest ached in a way that had nothing to do with her healing wound. She had lost everything, her squad, her honor, the life she had known, and yet here, in this little cabin with this quiet human, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Safety, belonging, maybe even hope. It terrified her more than any battlefield ever had. One night, unable to sleep, Kaelira stood by the window, staring at the moonlight spilling over the trees. Elias's voice came softly from behind her. "Can't sleep?" She shook her head. "I'm not used to quiet." He stepped closer, not too close, but enough that she could feel his warmth. "It gets easier." Kaelira hesitated, then asked the question that had been gnawing at her since the day she woke up. "Why are you so kind to me? To a Lyrathi? After everything our people have done to each other?" Elias was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Because war isn't the whole world. And you're not my enemy just because someone told me you were." Kaelira turned to look at him. His gaze was steady, honest. Something in her chest shifted. "Elias," she said softly, the name feeling strange but right on her tongue. "I don't know what happens next. My people, they might think I'm dead. Maybe it's better that way. But I don't know where I belong anymore." He held her gaze for a long moment. Then gently he said, "You belong wherever you choose to." Her throat felt tight. For the first time since she had closed her eyes on that battlefield, Kaelira felt like maybe, just maybe, she wasn't lost after all. Spring crept slowly into the valley. Kaelira's strength returned fully, though she still carried faint scars along her ribs. She started helping Elias with small tasks, hauling water, gathering firewood, learning the rhythm of his quiet life. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they didn't need to. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the world turned gold, Kaelira found herself standing beside him outside the cabin. "I should thank you," she said finally. Elias glanced at her, brows slightly raised. "For what?" "For giving me back my life." She hesitated. "For giving me something I thought I'd lost." He smiled faintly, eyes warm in the fading light. "You saved yourself, Kaelira. I just gave you a place to rest." But she shook her head. "No, you gave me more than that." And though she didn't say the words aloud, they both felt the truth lingering between them. Maybe what he had given her was a chance, not just to live, but to start again.